In the previous video, we've written a test and the implementation for two methods, one which sets and the other one which obtains the value stored within a from property of the mail class. In this video, we are going to do very similar thing, but this time for the to property. So let's, first of all, what I'm going to do is copy this entire test here that we've done in the previous video. So just duplicate it. I'm going to rename it correctly set to property. And this time, rather than having art from, we're going to have art to. And let's just replace it everywhere we have here. So get from is going to become get to as well. And let's rename the message here. So single mail art to call failed. And if we scroll down, art to get to and art to get to and art to, same here, and art to for the message, and once more get to and art to. And if we open the terminal and try and run the test, there we go, we've got call to undefined method art2. So let's open our mail class and let's create this public function art2. It's going to take emails and the name, same thing as we had with our art from. And then it's going to run this email name. It's going to go for emails. Then name, and the last thing is going to be, this time is going to be to property, which we don't have yet. So let's quickly add it after our from property, another protected one, to, which is of the array type as well. Okay, if we scroll down, let's add some dog blocks here. So it's going to say name is going to be null or string. Emails is going to be string or array. And for the summary, what did we do here? Art from option, we're gonna say art to option. And then to obtain the value stored within this to property, we're going to have public function get to, which simply returns this to. And again, dog blocks. And if we say get to option. And if we now open terminal and run a test again, and there we go, we have two tests, 10 assertions, all of which are passing. So that was pretty quick, as you can see. Okay, the next property we're going to work with is going to be a subject of the email, so protected subject. And it's going to be of string type, so of our string. If we scroll down, we need to get, we need to add the setter and getter for this property as well. So public function set subject as argument here, and we're gonna go for this subject equals subject. And let's add some dog blocks. Our subject is going to be of a string type. It returns void, and we're going to go for set subject of the message. And then we're going to have a getter, so public function get subject, return this subject, and a dog block will say get subject of the message. Okay, now let's quickly write some tests for it as well. So back to mail test, scroll down, create a few new lines, and we are going to start with public function correctly set subject property. And let's make it a test. Scroll up. Okay, we're going to start again with a mail, static container make mail. And now on this mail, we are going to set subject, so set subject, and we're going to set it to test subject. And now what we're going to do is run the assertion, so assert equals, and it should be test subject when we try to obtain it by using mail and then get subject. And then the message will say mail set subject call failed to set the subject property. go. Okay, now if we save it and run the test again, and there we go, we have 3 tests, 11 assertions. So that's our subject property. Let's quickly create another test, this time for the body property. So public function correctly sets body property, and we're going to, again, let's make it a test straight away. And let's start with, again, I'm going to copy what we've got here and I just rename all this. So rather than setting a subject, the method will be set body, and it's going to be say test body, and we should get test body when we call get body method. And the message should say mail set body call failed to set the body property. And while we on it, let's scroll up. Obviously for this to correctly sets to property, I've forgotten to update these messages correctly because we have the method right, but then call failed to set there rather than from should be to property. And again, second to property, third to property, fourth to property, and fifth to property. Okay, so this test is now ready. Let's run it. Obviously, it's going to fail, telling us the set body method does not exist. So let's go back to our mail class, and we are going to start with a new method. I'm going to create a few new lines as well here. We're going to start with public function set body. We take body as argument as the first argument. The second one is going to be HTML. By default, we're going to set it to true so that all our emails by default will be in HTML format. So we start with this body equals body, and then this HTML equals HTML. And let's add some doc blocks here. Body is going to be of a string type, and HTML is going to be of the Boolean type. Let's add some summary here, set body of the message. And now I'm going to quickly split the screen, scroll up so that I can add this body and HTML properties. So protected body, it's going to be of a string type. And then we have protected HTML, which is going to be Boolean. And let's set it by default to true as well. Okay, so now one thing, if I just save it and close this split screen here, one thing that might come useful is when we run the setter methods, we could probably return the instance of itself so that we can chain them rather than actually using the instance of the object on the next line and then associating the call with the method. So what I'm going to do here is starting with add from, I'm going to simply return this. So returning itself, and let's update the doc block here as well. Return this, just going to copy this for add to, the same thing. And let's add, update the doc block as well. Set subject, exactly same thing. And it's going to be, rather than return void, is going to be this. And then we have set body, we're going to do the same thing, and it will return itself as well. Okay, now to obtain the values stored within the body property, we're going to create public function get body, and it's going to simply return this body. And then let's just add doc block. It will return string, and summary should say get body of the message. If we now save it, run a test again, and we have 4 tests. 12 assertions, all of which are passing. So let's now go back to our editor. The next method we're going to add to our mail class is going to be protected function HTML, which will simply return a string or null based on whether our HTML property is true or false. So if it's true, what we're going to return is going to be text HTML. Otherwise, we'll return null. Okay, so that's just doc blocks here as well, and get content type. This is going to be a second argument later on when we're going to be using SwiftMailer to pass through to the set body method. Okay, public function reset, which will allow us to reset all properties. So this from equals just an empty array. Then we have this to equals an empty array. Then we have this subject will equal just null. And this body will also be null by default. And then this HTML will be true by default as well. Okay, let's just add some dog block here. Return as a void, so return void. Reset all properties of the object. Now the next method we're going to create will be called validate, so protected function validate. This method will basically take care of validating the message before it's going to be sent. So we're going to first check if exclamation mark this check. Then we're going to throw new exception saying message is incomplete. Let's just import this exception. So just to show you what's happened here when I imported this, obviously this use statement has been added right before the class declaration. Okay, now this check method, let's just add the method stub. So just to go through this validate once again. So if check didn't pass, then we're going to throw exception. That's what this validate method will do. So let's add some dog blocks straight away as well. It will return void because it doesn't return anything. Check if message is valid. And now the check here, we are going to return, and in between the brackets we're going to have several conditions. Exclamation mark empty, if isn't empty this from property, and isn't empty this to property, and isn't empty this subject property, and isn't empty this body property. All of them have to have values associated if we want to send an email. Otherwise this will fail and the exception is going to be thrown. Okay, let's add some dog block here as well. Returns boolean, so we go for check if message is ready to be sent. And the last method is going to be an abstract method. Any class that extends this mail class will have to implement it. So abstract public function send. And the implementation details will be down to the class that extends any subclasses. So, and it will return integer, indicating the number of messages that have been sent. 0 will indicate that the send has failed. So send message. And that's it for this mail class. If I just remove this redundant space here, let's save and close this file and continue in the following video.